When you think about businesses that are selling through the roof, like Skims or Allbirds, sure, you think about a great product, a cool brand, and great marketing. But an often overlooked secret is actually the businesses behind the business, making selling and for shoppers buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. It's home of ShopPay, the #1 checkout in the world. You can use it to boost conversions up to 50%, meaning way less carts going abandoned and way more sales going through to checkout. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout Allbirds uses. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/income, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/income to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/income.
Welcome to Having It All. My name is Matthew Bivens, and each week I bring you conversations and insights that explore the question, what does having it all mean to you? My goal is to leave you with stories you can relate to and messages you can take action on so that you can create an abundant, loving life. I am so excited that you're here to hang out with me today. Now, let's jump right into this episode. Today, I am talking about feedback. Now, feedback has been such a huge, can't even emphasize how huge part of the growth and healing and transformation that I've experienced in my life over the past number of years. And feedback with accountability, with vulnerability, those things have been just a cocktail of amazingness for me. And so I knew that I wanted to do an episode on feedback at some point. And when I was going through my list of potential topics, I said, you know what? Now is the time for the feedback episode. So that's what I'm talking about today. Right now, I am talking about feedback. Now, when you heard me first say the word feedback, I imagine some things popped in your mind, some images, some definitions that you might have about feedback. And for a lot of folks, the context in which they think of feedback is the context of a business or some sort of formal organization. They think of feedback in terms of maybe a performance review. It might have been something you've received in the past. You get called into your boss's office and he says, it's time for your formal review, and they give you feedback. And yes, that is a form of feedback, and it's obviously very important in that context. But have you ever thought about how you receive feedback, how you seek and receive feedback in life, outside of work, in a context that truly matters, the context of your life? So I argue that seeking and surrendering to powerful feedback, and let me stop right there, because feedback is not just criticism. It's not just somebody telling you their opinion about you and their feelings about you. Feedback is different. And so when you're able to seek and surrender to powerful feedback that comes from a powerful source, when you can do that and you can humble yourself to it, that's when you truly experience growth and transformation in your life. Now, a few years ago, I was at a marketing conference called HubSpot, and that was my former life before jumping into this podcast. I had a marketing podcast, and I had a marketing business, and I was the marketing director for a marketing agency, and that's basically what I did for about, 6 years, since 2010. But I digress. A few years ago, I was at this marketing conference called HubSpot in Boston, and HubSpot likes to bring all these keynote speakers and high-profile people to talk to the different folks at the conference. They do that every single year. In the past, they've had people like Arianna Huffington and Seth Godin, and I believe Gary Vaynerchuk is speaking this year. So those types of folks. On this particular day, they had invited Brené Brown to come to speak. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Brené Brown, then I recommend you go and Google her as soon as you're done listening to this podcast. She's incredible. She's an author, a speaker, and a researcher, really, in the areas of vulnerability and courage and worthiness. So Brené Brown, she jumps up on stage and she had this amazing speech about stories and how each of us create our stories and the power, how our power really lies in our ability to not just be sucked into our stories, but to own them, to own them and rewrite our endings. And I'm going to actually put a link to a Brene Brown article that talks about the concept of stories in the show notes, that you can actually check it out. But Brene is up there. She's delivering this amazing presentation, and I have my phone out and I'm writing down all these quotes and all these memorable things that she's saying that I want to remember. And somewhere in her presentation, she said this quote, and it really stuck out for me, and it ended up sticking out above everything else that she said. And I'm actually looking at my phone right now as I read this. The quote was, "Your willingness to be uncomfortable is the best predictor of how wholehearted your life will be." I'll read it again. "Your willingness to be uncomfortable is the best predictor of how wholehearted your life will be."
This episode is sponsored by Family Album, the ultimate app for family memories. We all take hundreds of photos and videos of our kids, but they often get lost in our phones. Family Album app is here to change that. It's a free app that organizes your memories into beautiful albums, making it easy and secure to share only with your loved ones. Family Album takes the hassle out of organizing. Upload your photos and videos, and the app sorts them into albums automatically by month and year, while displaying each child's age. With features like private sharing with family and close friends that you choose, automatic sorting, and unlimited storage, it's the perfect tool for busy parents. I've been using Family Album and love how it keeps all of our memories in one place. From everyday moments to special occasions, everything is beautifully organized and easy to share. And with Family Album Premium, you get even more perks like longer video uploads, monthly and yearly 1S movies generated from the photos and videos you uploaded, and more. Ready to get started? Download Family Album app. That's one word, for free from the App Store or Google Play. Capture, organize, and share your family's precious moments with Family Album.
This podcast is sponsored by IQ Bar. I've got good news and bad news. Here's the bad news. Most protein bars are packed with sugar and unpronounceable ingredients. The good news? There's a better option. I'm Will, and I created IQ Bar plant protein bars to empower doers like you with clean, delicious, low-sugar brain and body fuel. IQ bars are packed with 12 grams of protein, brain nutrients like magnesium and lion's mane, and zero weird stuff. And right now, you can get 20% off all IQ Bar products, plus free shipping. Try our delicious IQ Bar sampler pack with 7 plant protein bars, 4 hydration mixes, and 4 enhanced coffee sticks. Clean ingredients, amazing taste, and you'll love how you feel. Refuel smarter, hydrate harder, caffeinate larger with IQ Bar.
Go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20 to get 20% off all IQ Bar products plus free shipping. Again, go to eatiqbar.com and enter code BAR20.
Like I said, I was taking notes on my phone, and I wrote this down on my phone, and I remember just texting that to my wife, hashtag mind blown, because it was profound to me. I was like, damn, okay. My willingness to be uncomfortable. So the extent to which I can be uncomfortable, that's how wholehearted my life will be. Interesting. So I kept that on my phone ever since, and it's obviously still on there today, and I've returned to it frequently. And over time, I've started to evolve Brené's words. Personally, in my life, I have experienced time and time again the power of feedback. And I've witnessed what happens when people are able to do two things, when they're able to seek out feedback, because so many people do not want feedback. So many people view feedback as criticism. They're synonyms in their mind. And they view feedback as personal. So, who wants to be personally criticized? No one, obviously. So many people that I've encountered and have talked to and have shared with me have said that I don't seek out feedback. I don't look for those types of things. So when you're able to, number one, just seek out feedback, and number two, surrender to that feedback. When it comes from a powerful source, when you're able to do that, and by surrender, I mean to really let it soak in. Let that feedback soak in. Let it get past your ego, get past all the denials. Because our ego wants to do that. When we receive some sort of feedback, especially if it doesn't align with who we think we are, how we view ourselves, our ego jumps in, and our ego is damn skilled at denying that feedback, at rationalizing why that person is giving feedback the way they are, at creating all these different stories and saying that, no, they don't know what they're talking about. So if you're able to quiet your ego, hush it, and really let the feedback soak in and influence your thoughts, your actions, your behaviors, again, especially when it comes from a powerful source, when you do those things, I have seen so much transformation happen in people's lives. It's freaking ridiculous. And I'm talking about transformation across all different levels: physical, mental, social, emotional, spiritual, transformation on all of these levels, because people are able to seek out, accept, and act on healthy, powerful feedback. So I'm evolving Brené Brown quote a little bit, again, because of how important I think feedback really is in growth and transformation. And if you know me, if you've been listening to this show, then that's what I'm all about. I'm all about our individual growth, our individual transformations, so that we can be living out our dream lives and so that we can have it all. So here is my evolved quote. Your willingness to seek feedback is the best predictor of how on path your life will be. I'll read it one more time. Your willingness to seek feedback is the best predictor of how, quote unquote, on path your life will be. Now, I can almost guarantee that you're going to see that tweeted out by me in a Facebook quote, Facebook graphic. Again, that's my marketing mind coming to play. But I'll go back to the quote again. Your willingness to seek feedback, even when times are tough or when you don't want to hear it, or, like I said, when your ego is not having it, when you can do that, it directly impacts your ability to create the life that you've been fantasizing about. The reason why is because feedback keeps you on mission. Feedback keeps you moving in the proper direction. And by doing that, it feeds your bigger why. Now, I want you to remember that I said that I mentioned the bigger why, because I'm going to come back to that towards the end of this podcast. So, okay, your willingness to receive feedback keeps you focused, keeps you clear, and it helps you to not wander around aimlessly. And I want to share an example, a really great example of the importance of feedback. And I didn't make this example up myself. My coach, Day Adioba, he told it to me, but I bet he doesn't mind that I'm going to borrow it, and so I'm going to borrow it. So what I want you to do is picture an airplane, right? An airplane at the airport. Everybody's loaded, it's gassed up, it's fueled, the jets are on, and boom, it takes off. Now, the airplane is going from point A to point B. It has a final destination. However, what's really fascinating is that as the airplane is traveling, for a large portion of that flight, it is off path. It is off path. It is not on that straight line, or whatever the line is, because it may not be straight. It might be some curves in it, but it's not on the line that it needs to be to get to the destination. It's a little bit off to the left, or it's a little bit off to the right. And what the pilots do is they look at their instrumentation, they look at the data, the information that their instruments are telling them, and they use that to get back on course. They use the data or the feedback to course correct. And they make tiny, tiny little adjustments so that by the end of the flight, they have arrived at their intended destination. It's feedback that keeps the plane on track. It's feedback that gets the plane from A to B. The feedback keeps it from just flying around the sky aimlessly. And the very, very same thing is true for us as people. So feedback is essential for growth, for alignment, for being on track, for having direction, And all of that leads to transformation. It leads to evolution. It leads to fulfilling your mission, fulfilling your purpose in life. Feedback is so important for me that, I was teaching a marketing course this morning. I still keep one little pinky toe in the marketing world, even though the rest of me has jumped out. And I teach a marketing course once a month here in Atlanta. And today was the final class. It was a 16-week course. It was awesome. And today was the very, very final class. So, after we went through the normal stuff on the agenda, we spent the last 20 minutes they spent actually giving me feedback. I was asking them for feedback. I wanted to know how I showed up, how they experienced me, how they experienced the course, how they experienced all the materials I put together. I wanted to know, were they annoyed when I showed up 5 minutes late that one time? Or did they like or dislike my slides? I was asking them for feedback. And feedback is it's a huge part of the weekly accountability group that I sit in, which is called a COI, or a circle of influence. Part of the reason why we meet each and every week is to work on our ability to receive and to surrender to feedback. Now, here's the thing about feedback. As you're going through life, let's say that you've been inspired by this message so far, and you're like, I'm going to freaking go out there and receive and ask for some feedback from people and receive it. You got to keep a couple things in mind. Not all feedback comes from a loving place. So it's really important that you're able to discern loving feedback from the rest. And it's also equally important that if you get feedback from a non-loving place, if someone's giving you feedback out of anger or maybe criticism, judgment, whatever it is, there's still probably some nuggets in that feedback that you can take and that you can apply and that you can use for your own growth. So here's a really, really simple example of feedback that doesn't come from a loving place. Imagine you're sitting at a stoplight. It's a red light. It turns green. You don't immediately hit the gas and the car behind you starts honking on their horn. That's feedback. I mean, those horn honks, all they're doing is giving you feedback. And then probably not coming from a very loving place. It's, they might be urgent. They have to get somewhere, or maybe they're frustrated. But they're honking their horn and they're giving you feedback. And like I said, even if feedback doesn't come from a loving place, there's still something you can take from it. And if you're in the car, the thing that you can take from it is, hey, you're supposed to be going right now, so why don't you hit the gas? So that's a very, very simple example of feedback that comes from a not so loving place, but is still worth paying attention to. That's the first thing about feedback you want to notice. The second thing about feedback is that when you do receive feedback and it comes from a powerful place, and when it doesn't line up with your image of yourself, your ego is not going to want to believe it. And I mentioned this earlier, but it's totally worth repeating. Your ego is going to make up every story in the book as to why the person or the entity that is giving you the feedback is just full of shit. It's going to do a damn good job at convincing you that you are right and they are wrong. And in these moments, it's up to you to tell your ego to shut it so that you can receive the feedback, humble yourself, surrender to it, and grow. So it's so important to keep those two things in mind. Now, the next time you are receiving feedback, I want you to keep those things in mind and ask yourself, is this feedback coming from a loving place? And how am I responding to it?
O'Reilly. Need a little help? O'Reilly Auto Parts can help. Need advice? We've got advice. No matter what you need, we have thousands of professional parts people doing their part to make sure you have it. Exceptional customer service. Just one part that makes O'Reilly stand apart. The professional parts people. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Now, here's the kicker with all of this feedback stuff. Feedback will not be utilized effectively. You won't be able to integrate it powerfully into what you are doing really because it won't make sense to you. You won't be able to do that if you don't know what it is that you're playing for, if you don't have some sort of end in mind. Let's go back to the plane example real quick. The feedback of the instruments on the plane doesn't mean a thing if the pilot doesn't know where the plane is going, right? You know, if the pilot only knows it's taking off from here, but doesn't know where it's supposed to go, then who cares whether or not the instruments say, you're going too far west or too far east? It doesn't matter because there is no end point. So remember how I mentioned before about the bigger why? Remember I mentioned to keep in mind, I'm going to bring that back up. Well, now is the time. Your mission statement, having a mission statement, is like having a North Star for your life. It's your direction. It's what you're playing for. It's your end point. Now, I'm not going to simply talk to you about mission statements and their importance without actually sharing one with you. And so what I'm going to do now is share with you my current mission statement. So mission statements, before I get into sharing mine, mission statements change and they evolve. The one I'm about to share with you is my third mission statement, the third one that I've made in as many years. And I'm currently working on my fourth mission statement. So really what has happened with me and the other folks who I know that use mission statements is that at some point in time, the words no longer resonate as powerfully. And at some point in time, you really start to analyze those words and those sentences and how they're put together. And you think, okay, things are showing up in my life as a result of this mission statement that aren't exactly what I intended. Therefore, let me evolve this thing a little bit. Let me change it. Let me maybe start from scratch, start all the way over. And that's what I'm currently in the process of doing. Until I have the fourth one ready to go, I'm still sticking on this third one, and I'm going to share it with you right now. My mission statement is to play wholeheartedly and from a place of joy and peace, to love unconditionally with patience and understanding, to inspire completely through my authenticity, courage, and surrender, to live healthily, honoring my body temple, and to create with abundance and confidence. Boom! That's my mission statement. You can read it on my website, and I'll probably even add it to my business cards or my email signature. I have it written down in my house, and I actually use it as a bookmark. So my mission statement is plastered all over the place. And really what you want to do with mission statements are three things. First, you want to come up with one, just create one. The second thing you want to do is memorize it. And ultimately, what you really want to do is internalize it. And that's where you are living out your mission statement, or you're able to make decisions based off of your mission statement or with your mission statement in mind. I'm getting a little bit off topic, and I'm doing that on purpose because I am going to stop there with the conversation of mission statements because mission statements are so important and so deep and rich that they deserve their very own podcast episode. And that's exactly what I'm going to do next week. So next Friday, I'm going to pick up where I left off about mission statements, and I might even have a special guest with me. And so definitely tune in on Friday, come back, check out the episode next Friday because it is going to be about mission statements. But before we go, I want to leave you guys with some homework about feedback. All right? A challenge, really. Let's get rid of the word homework. This is a challenge. I am challenging you to go out and seek feedback from 3 people. Just 3 people. So pick 3 people that sit close to you. It could be a spouse or your best friend or a sibling, maybe your parents, coworker, boss, whatever it is. Doesn't matter. But try to find 3 people who will give you honest feedback and ask them, how do they experience you? If you want to take it a step further, here are 6 different areas that you can ask them that question on. Ask them how they are experiencing you in your faith, family, friends, fitness, finance, and fun. I want you to ask them how they experience you in each of those areas and just see what they have to say. Now, the more people that you seek feedback from, the more accurate your feedback will ultimately be. So, feedback from one person is great. That's awesome. But when you get feedback from 2, 3, 4, 10, 20 people, now you really know how you're showing up in life. You really are going to be able to understand how you are showing up across all those different areas and how people are experiencing you. Now, that's my challenge for you. Go seek that feedback. And if you are bold enough, surrender to it and act on it. And I guarantee you will start experiencing more aha moments, more breakthrough that's going to lead you towards your growth a heck of a lot faster. So remember, next week's episode is going to be all about mission statements. And like I said, I'm going to have a surprise guest in here with me talking about mission statements. So make sure you check in. And last but not least, I would be absolutely remiss if I did not mention to you an amazing tool that I put together that's all about receiving feedback and giving yourself feedback. It's called the Abundance Benchmark, and it allows yourself to give yourself feedback across those 6 different life areas that I mentioned earlier: faith, family, friends, fitness, finance, and fun. So please, if you feel like you really want to get more feedback in your life, if you feel up to that challenge, then hop over to MatthewBivens.com and download it. That's the last thing I'm going to say about the Abundance Benchmark. And with that, I want to say thank you for joining me on this episode. I was really excited to do this one because, as you probably experienced, feedback is huge in my life. It's such an important part of who I am and who I am for myself and who I am for other people. The folks closest to me know and understand that I will give them feedback and that I will tell it to them straight. And it comes from a place of love. It truly does. That's the type of person I am. So feedback is huge for me. So being able to sit down and share my experience of feedback, my message of feedback, my own personal quote, being able to share all that stuff with you all is really amazing. And knowing that you're out there listening and that my words are impacting you and perhaps influencing you to seek out more powerful feedback in your life, that means more than you'll know. So I want to say thank you for listening to this show. I look forward to being in your headphones next week as well. We're talking about mission statements. And with that, here is to you having it all. 2 quick things before you leave. First, did you know that the Having It All podcast is a part of the Fireside Network? Yep, we are one of the esteemed shows that calls Fireside Network home. That means if you ever want to listen to a show outside of iTunes or Stitcher or whatever your favorite podcasting app is, all you need to do is visit firesidenetwork.com and under shows, select Having It All. From there, you can access all the episodes, see the show notes, learn about my guests, and more. Second, I am very excited to announce that my brand new website is live. Visit MatthewBivens.com and you can learn more about me, get plugged into an accountability group, and pick up some free content like the Abundance Benchmark. I am all about helping you not only identify what your ideal life looks like, but also helping you on your journey towards it. I want you to experience more abundance and love in your life. So, again, you can find out more information about all of that great stuff at MatthewBivens.com. Thank you once more for listening to the show, and here is to you having it all.